I've quite literally just started filming this video and I have come to the conclusion that I have to actually physically get up and pick out all my books that I have to pick out. Oh my god, it's gonna be so many books. Say hi everyone. Now my shelves look so empty. Maybe I should move this way. That looks a little less empty. I have 34 books to talk about today, so let's just jump right into it. Hello everyone, it's Chloe here. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to a brand new weekly video. Today's video is very chill. It's very stripped back. I have no makeup on. I'm very relaxed. It is a very cozy cold day in autumn, so I thought this would be the best time to do my like monthly wrap up of my reading. I know everybody does this, or if they want to do it, they do it every month, so January, February, March. But I thought I would do it every 3 months because I think like that's just going to be a lot easier for me. Sometimes I only like read 2 books a month. It would be a pretty boring video, so I'm gonna do it every 3 months. So this is my January, February and March wrap up. There is 34 books in total, so this is gonna be a long video. So grab a snack, grab a little drink, and we're just gonna talk about some books and what I thought about them. If you want to know what I read in January, February and March, just keep on watching.
Down, yeah. I've been feeling so down, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to jump right into the month of January. Now my shelves look bare. It's because all my books are in front of me, so please excuse that. But if you guys are interested, I actually did do a yearly wrap up last year. I didn't do a monthly or anything, so if you want to know every single book I read last year, I think I still will be doing that this year, hopefully. I'll probably link down below if you're interested. However, I need to quickly do a thumbnail and then we'll get into talking about books, which is so exciting because I have my Goodreads here. I'll tell you guys what I rated them. I actually think there is more than 34 books because I didn't count my Kindle reads. So there's probably like 40-ish maybe. I don't know. Take it with a grain of salt, okay? But yeah, let's just get right into it and I'm so excited. Okay, January. For the first book I read in January and the first book I ever read this year so far was Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross. Oh! If you guys know me, if you watched last year's weekly, no. If you watched last year's I did it again. If you watched last year's yearly roundup kind of thing that I did, you guys know that Divine Rivals was my absolute pride and joy. And then this came out and it needed to be the best potential it could be. For me personally, did not fail. A lot of people didn't like this one compared to the first one, which I can see what you mean when you say that, but this is my pride and joy. I love the Letters of Enchantment duo, so I read this a 5-star. I ended up finishing this book at 12 in the morning. I was at Molly's house and I was reading it and it just made me feel some things. So that was my first book. I personally love it, but I can't really talk about much of it because you have to read Divine Rivals first and then this is the second one. So if you haven't done so, I highly recommend reading both of these. I feel like this month was a big series month. So these are just a couple single books and then I have a massive series that I went through. So the second book I read was Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood. This was a new release, so obviously I had to read it. I ended up rating this a 4-star, I believe. Yes, according to my Goodreads, it's a 4-star. If you are interested, my Goodreads is always linked down below. I ended up writing that I started this book knowing nothing about chess and then I finished the book knowing nothing about chess. But it was a really cute book. I liked it. I believe this was Ali's first book in YA. I'm pretty sure this was her first like step in the little YA genre, and she did a really good job considering she made me interested in chess, something that does not interest me in whatsoever. I think I liked this a bit more than her STEM ones, like her women in science ones. However, I still liked them. I just preferred this one over them because she has done 3 books, I believe, already like continuously of the same genre of people in STEM, and I was a bit kind of over it. And then she brought this one out and I was like, okay, I'll read it because it has nothing to do with science, and I really enjoyed it. 4-star read and second book of January. Then I decided to read a thriller because I have never read a thriller. I don't think I have. I don't think I've read any thrillers last year, but apparently I decided to just get a bunch of Freida McFadden books this year and I dove into them. Like you'll see, I think I read like 4 or 5 Freida McFadden books in the 3 months that I'm talking about. I read Never Lie by Freida McFadden. I rated this a 4.5 and I simply just said that I never want to go to therapy again because this terrified me to go to therapy. This was my first Freida McFadden book and her writing style and her fast pace is so good. If you're ever wanting to get into some thrillers, this gal is the way to go because her writing style is so quick and so fast paced. I think I read all of her books in less than a day or a day. It is just so fast paced and it's so much fun. But 4.5, I think just because this was my first Freida book, I was very intrigued. And then I decided to read Light Lark by Alex Alex, why'd I say it like that? Light Arc by Alex Astor. Now this is a 2-book series. I haven't read the second one. I ended up rating this a 3.5, and I actually wrote I have no clue what to rate this, so I'm leaning towards 3.5, so I'm saying 3.5. I said it just felt a bit meh to me. I don't know. I was super excited to read it and just felt a little underwhelmed. I think that's also why I haven't read the second one, because it obviously continues on. I should read it. I need to read it. I just haven't, because I think I was so excited for this one. I was gonna say I have a couple quotes. I only have one. So I don't know. It was okay. It was good. I think if you're wanting to do a little bit of a light-hearted fantasy, maybe this is the one for you. I'm very sorry about that reflection, by the way. Again, I still don't really know my thoughts on it. Maybe at the end of the year I'll give you some more thoughts. Probably not though. Okay, and then I have my first Kindle read of the year, or month, or whatever. If I say year, you know what I mean? I mean like January, February, March, okay? I read Unsteady by Peyton Connie. I rated this a 4-star. Literally all I wrote for my Goodreads review was it's basically Icebreaker, just way better. This book was so God. He has severe panic attacks and she helps him calm down, and like with music is a big part of it, and it was just really cute. I really enjoyed it, and I felt like that was what Icebreaker wanted to be, just it wasn't. And I don't like Icebreaker one little bit. And next up, I actually ended up physically buying this book, but I actually listened to it on audio. I ended up picking it up because I really want to reread it and annotate it because it was that good. I ended up rating it a 4.5, but everybody rates it a 5, and I really want to get there, but I feel like if I physically read it, I will rate it a 5. But this was my first ever audiobook listen, ever. Point blank period. It was interesting. But this is, I should tell you what the fucking book is. This is the 7 Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I wrote down, I'm so glad this had a happy ending, or else I would be a blubbering mess right now. I'm an iffy fan when it goes to like time jumps. I get really confused and I just don't feel like I understand it that much. This has time jumps where you understand. You have to also keep in mind that I listened to this as well, so having time jumps physically reading confuses me. Listening to it would have been fucking horrendous, but it actually was really good. This follows Clementine and what is his name? I forgot his name. Ewan. There we go. But Ewan and Clementine, adorable. Like the concept of this book is insane. So I highly recommend this book. Audio, reading, physically, whatever, does not matter. You'll have your heart crushed and then fixed in the end of it. Okay? Then I read 6 books in the span of like a week, not even. I ended up reading the entire Caraval Once Upon a Broken Heart series by Stephanie Garber. This book is dusty. Why? I don't know. Anyway, so the first 3 that I have is the Caraval series. I did end up doing a weekly reading vlog on these, so I'll leave that link down below if you're interested. Mostly on Once Upon a Broken Heart because that was what I was reading at the time, but it's still a continuation. This that I have mixed feelings about, but Once Upon a Broken Heart is my pride and joy. So we'll get into it really quickly. Caraval, I ended up rating it a 3-star, and all I wrote is love him or hate him, Julian is an icon. I feel like he definitely saved this book for me. Then the second one is Legendary, and I rated this a 3-star again. All I wrote was all I can say is Jax made me continue reading, because Jax, oh my god, don't even get me started on this man. I love him to death. And then I have Finale. I rated this a 4-star, and I said once again Julie and Scarlett deserve the world, and I would die on that hill. I felt like this was a bit more repetitive than I would want it to be. That's why I rated them a little bit lower than I should have. It's still very interesting. Definitely different to what I usually would read, but I feel like I had to read these before I read Once Upon a Broken Heart, and I'm glad I did, because this goddamn series racked me to the core, okay? So I read Once Upon a Broken Heart, The Ballad of Never After, and The Curse of True Love. This is all about Jax, and like I said just before, Jax is in Caraval. No, he's not. He's in Legendary and Finale. So like continuing it on, I was like, oh, I have a bit more of an understanding of what's going to happen in this while reading them. I read Once Upon a Broken Heart, and what did I rate this? A 4. All I wrote was I love Jax, that's all. I love the villain, can you tell? Like, I love villains. And then I read The Ballad of Never After, and I was really scared because this is the one that everybody loves and adores. I ended up rating this a 4.75. Almost a 5, but Apollo annoyed the absolute fuck out of me. So this is a 4.75, and all I wrote was fuck Apollo because we don't like him. But I do agree with everybody else and say this is probably the best one out of the 3. And then to finish the whole series off, we have A Curse for True Love. I wrote this a 4.5. I wrote the best feeling I could ask for, thank you Miss Garber, because I was gonna rate this a 5, but this is dual point of view, or is it trios? I don't remember. This is Apollo and Evangeline's point of view, but then like sprinkled in is Jack's POV, which is great. I don't like Apollo. No one should. If you do, get some therapy. I like he had way too much space in this book when I wanted more of Evangeline's or Jack's POV, especially Jack's POV, because his point of view is so interesting and he's the main story. So anyway, this whole series has my heart and I just want to cry. Like, I literally will reread this. So we're going to be on to Feb now and I'm quite excited. Feb was a good month. Why is that saying January? Now I'm a bit confused. I have to get my phone. We're back. Now, moving on to February. It's a big ass fucking pile, just saying. This is February. I read 14 books in Feb. Let's just talk about them, shall we? Because this fucking pile's heavy. Okay, here we go. So the first book I read, I think I actually read some of these in a video. I'm not 100% sure because I vlog a lot of the time and I forget what's in my vlogs. Anyway, so the first one of Feb I have is A Silent Patient. I ended up rating this at 3.5. Wrote on Goodreads, a good read to bring me into my thriller era for this month, but still just an average read. Do I remember what happened? Kind of no. Which is kind of sad because with thrillers you're like cast to stay with you, right? Like, it's a thriller. But this one not so much. It was still a good read, just not as good as probably like my Frida books that I will live and die on. Okay? Why'd I do that? I don't know. I ended up reading another Frida McFadden. I read The Housemaid. I rated this a 4-star. I didn't write a review, so that's nice. Still yet to read the second one. And then there's a third one coming out as well. I was going to say something that just left my mind, so that's fucking great. I kind of saw what was coming, but I also didn't. Because with Frida books, if you don't know, she keeps in your mind that you know what's going to happen, and then she retwists it and like surprises the fuck out of you. So it's great. I love those type of thrillers, and Frida does that so often that I'm kind of like, oh, okay, I know it's going to happen, and then it's not going to happen because she's going to retwist it. And it's very hard for me to get shocked now because I'm so used to her writing. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that was my second book of Feb. Third book, very different. I wanted to read a romance because I haven't read a romance in quite a while. If you want to say this is a romance, kind of, but like I just wanted to read a fluffy romance. So I decided to pick up Love at First Sight by Anna E. Collins. I read this a 4-star. All I read was this was super cute and have nothing else to say about it. She has to team up with Wyatt, an architect, and she wants to build a house next to her ex-fiance because he cheated on her. Hence the spiting in the title. But yeah, so they obviously bond over stuff. I guess. A lot of people didn't like this book because she's being a child, your fiance, ex-fiance, cheats on you and you want to build a house next to his to block his view, etc, etc. But I really quite enjoyed this. The writing style was really fun, so I think that's why I enjoyed it so much. So these upcoming books are in a weekly reading vlog as well. I know that for sure. This is Bride by Ali Hazelwood. Again, if you forgot, I read a book from her about chess. This one is about werewolves and vampires. What? Like, this woman can just do no wrong, I guess. And there's another one coming out later this year from her. She has something in her little fingers that makes her write really quick. Anyway, I ended up rating this a 5. At the time of finishing it, I said it was a 4.5. And I said right now it's a 4.5. But honestly, I'm leaning towards a 5 because this was something else. A lot of people were very excited for this book. And I, as myself, was very excited and I very much enjoyed it. It was written in a way that I understood everything, what was happening. It was just quite fun to read. I enjoyed it very much. So thank you, Ali, for that. I ended up reading another Frida McFadden, and now looking at this, I remember that I hated this very much. Out of all the books I have read from her, this is probably my least favorite. This is The Teacher by Frida McFadden. I ended up reading this 4-star. I generally wanted to stop reading halfway through. I was feeling sick. However, hear me out. The whole book is worth for the epilogue alone. I call it the epilogue, so it's called the epilogue in my head, okay? But basically, this is about a teacher and a student and like her husband, and like it's just, it was disgusting. I did not like it. I don't like massive age gaps where you can tell it's a fucking adult, like late 30s, early 40s, and like a 16-year-old. Like, that's like jail time, you know? I don't like that, and I don't want to read that. So that's why I felt generally sick during this book. But it did come a little bit more bearable at the end. And I can't tell you anything about it because you have to read the whole book to understand the epilogue. So then I read another thriller. This is None of Us Is True by Lisa Jewell. This is my first Lisa Jewell book. I have a bunch more on my shelf just there. See the yellow and green? That's all Lisa Jewell. I ended up rating this a 3-star. I ended up rating this a 3.5 star. I binged this all in one sitting, but I'm still not sure how I feel about this one, is what I wrote on Goodreads. I didn't like how this ended, just straight up. So that's why I rated it a little bit lower than I usually would. Again, you have to understand, with my ratings, take it with a grain of salt. If I like a book, like a 5-star, I'm gonna fucking tell you. I'm gonna jam it down your throat. Like the lowest I will do is a 3. I've never rated a book a 2 or a 1, and I have never DNF'd a book ever. So like my rating system is a bit, could use some work, but take it with a grain of salt, okay? 3.5, moving on. Oh, we read a whole nother set, yay! I ended up reading and binging The Cruel Prince trilogy by Holly Black. So I had The Cruel Prince, The Wicked King, and Queen of Nothing. So I ended up rating The Cruel Prince a 4.5. Was that what I really wrote? Am I okay? I said, why do I always fall in love with the neglected villains? Carden, if you disappoint me, I'm gonna be pissed. And then the next one is The Wicked King. I rated this a 4. And I wrote, can you just have a somewhat happy ending, please? Because that girl goes through the fucking ringer in this whole series. And I need her to have like a happy ending, okay? And then I read The Queen of Nothing, and I rated this a 5-star read because this was the best ending to this trilogy. Oh my god, I ate this shit up. This was so good. It took me so long to read this series. I don't even know why. I enjoyed the fuck out of this whole series. And then I have this series now right here. This is Jude's Brother, which is great because it's kind of continuation of this. So maybe I'll read them very soon, so they might be in a new video. I hear people talk about this series, but I also don't. So definitely highly recommend this series because oh my fucking god. I have 2 Kindle reads, so I don't have the physical copies here. I read Where's Molly by H.G. Carlton, which is a kind of short story. Not really, I think it's like 200 and something pages. So it is a pretty short book, but this is kind of like a continuation, kind of, not really, from Hunting and Haunting Adeline. If you read Hunting, but when Adeline is in her little, like, what can I say without spoiling it? In her cabin, I guess, and she finds all the letters and stuff. This is who wrote them. So this is like who Molly is. Anyway, that was a really shit example of like who this is. I ended up rating it a 3.5 to a 4. A quick and shortish book to help answer all my questions, plus a happy ending. Who would have thunk it? Because I genuinely thought this was not going to be a happy ending because it's H.D. Carlton and she puts me through the ringer. It was good. I liked it. The little epilogue at the end, just kiss. Oh my god, this book, I want to just eat it up. Then I ended up reading The Darkest Corner of the Heart. This is the Brightest Light second book. I loved this book with a passion. I think the first book off the top of my head is The Brightest Light of Sunshine. That is book 1. I read it on my Kindle and I physically bought it. It is on my shelf. Then I read book 2, which is this one I'm talking about now. It just came out. Read it on my Kindle. Haven't bought the physical copy yet, but I will be because I have so many highlights in that book. And then there is a third one coming out. So this is going to end up being a trilogy, which is so fun. This was a 5-star read. It was absolutely stunning. I ended up writing on Goodreads. I put off reading this book for at least a couple days since it came out. So I was so scared it wouldn't live up to the hype as the first one. And let me just tell you, I was not disappointed. My goodness! The way this author writes is stunning. Love her. Highly recommend. It's free on Kindle Unlimited. Go watch it. No, go read it. Okay, and then we have 2 physical books and then we're done with February. I ended up reading a cute little short book, I guess. This is When Grumpy Met Sunshine by Charlotte Stern. I ended up rating this 3.5. I was reading this when I was having a massive PCOS flare-up. I literally wrote, reading this while having a PCOS flare-up was definitely not the best idea. My emotions were all over the place. However, it was super cute, good plus size representation. Just felt like I wanted more. She's a ghostwriter, she's a stunner, and he is an ex-footballer. Yeah, he is an ex-footballer. She gets hired to write his biography. He's grumpy as all shit. She's literal sunshine. So beautiful. I just wanted more out of it, that was all. But then again, maybe it was just me being really emotional and wanting to like represent myself while reading this. So again, like I said before, take my review with a grain of salt, okay? Thank you. Next, I decided to start a series which I have yet to continue. I picked up this. Oh my goodness, can you tell by the tabs? This is Throne of Glass by Sarah J Maas. I rated this a 4.5 and all I said was I'm now addicted, so that's fun, which is not that good because I haven't read the second one since. It's still sitting on my bedside table. I started so many other books and I haven't picked Crown and Midnight up. That's just a me issue though, so don't blame Sarah J Maas for that. I really wanted to read this Throne of Glass. This was my whole goal, was to read this whole series this year. So this is definitely going to be scattered throughout probably the next month or so, because this month, which is April as I'm filming this and when I'm uploading it, there's so many new releases coming out which I'll be reading in between. I don't know how much I'm going to be reading, but I will hopefully be getting onto the next one. But this one was so good. So good. Like, oh my god. My first fantasy was A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. So I kind of understood everything she was getting at. I wasn't confused. I feel like with Sarah J, I don't get confused, and usually I get confused with, we know that. But 4.5, and I need to finish the series. But I am just putting it off because I know it's 8 books. Like, why is it so long, girly? Why? I didn't even show this one. Before Cruel Prince, I finished this. I didn't start this in February. I started this in November. The previous fucking year. I hated this with a passion. I did talk about this in a weekly vlog where I featured the Cruel Prince and stuff. I rated this a 2.5 to a 3, and that is saying something. I didn't DNF this, but I did skip 20 chapters. I wrote worst experience of my life. So glad it's over. This took me over 3 months to finish, and I even skipped 20 chapters. I can't make this shit up. I just didn't like it. I love Fourth Wing, even though people hate Fourth Wing. I liked Fourth Wing. This one not so much, and now she's released the new one, which is coming out in January next year. I'll have to buy it to know what happens because the ending pissed me the absolute fuck off, but we live and we learn. Anyway, moving on to what I just finished in March. Apparently I started listening to this in January, oh my god, and I finished it on the 1st of March. This was If I See You Again Tomorrow by Robbie Couch. This was a audiobook, like I've mentioned 75 different times. It was good. It was a Groundhog's Day kind of situation. I read this at 3.5 to a 4. Time loops get really confusing. Again, like I said before, the time jumps, time loops, all that time shit for me, I get so confused. My fucking nose. Anyway, I didn't get confused. It was quite nice. I just didn't listen to it. Oh, you know why? Because my Spotify hours were used up, and I just forgot to go back and listen to the rest of it. So it like sat there on my Spotify unlistened. I ended up reading the Rebel Blue Ranch duology. This is about to be a trio this year, August, I think there's the third one coming out. Anyway, this book, there's crack or something in this book. My Jesus Christ. Done and Dusted by Lala Sage. Are you kidding me? 5 star, 5 star. All I wrote was this was so good, what the heck. I read this in 5 hours, so I don't know what that says about me, but this is beautiful. I love small town, love country, you guys understand. But no, you have to read this shit ASAP. Thank you very much. And then I also read Swifted and Saddled. No, just Swift and Saddled, Chloe. This was 4 stars, and all I wrote is I feel I love this family too much, because this family, I am connecting to this family too much, and it's quite concerning. As you can see, I really enjoyed the first one more. I still loved this story, but this one is my pride and joy. However, when that 3rd book comes out, oh, I know it's gonna eat, and I'm so excited. I read those 2 in March, and then I am gonna change my battery and come back because I'm going to lose my shit in a minute. So give me a second. We're back. I feel like you're at an angle. Thank you. Next one. I read this in between the Rebel Blue What? I read this next one in between Rebel Blue, but I thought I'd just show you that at the same time. But I ended up reading Assistant to the Villain. I ended up rating this a 4.5 to a 4.75 because this was so good. I wrote this was so unexpectedly good. The banter, the humor, the plot, all of it got me hooked from the get-go. This is going to be a trio, I believe. The second one is coming out later this year. I want to say it's later this year. Should I check before I say that? Probably. When's this one come out so I can know? August. So August, second one comes out. I'll be reading that shit up. But this was so unexpectedly good. It is a fantasy, but it's a comedic fantasy, which is so much fun for someone that doesn't necessarily understand fantasy so much. So if you are kind of getting into fantasy, like fae, fantasy, all that shit, I feel like this is a good one for you to get into because it's a very comedic type of twist on it, which is great. Again, for people that don't understand fantasy that much. So recommend that. That was fucking hilarious. My ears really itchy. And then I have 2 more Frida McFaddens. I ended up reading The Inmate by Frida McFadden. This was a 3.5 to a 4. Enjoyable with normal Frida twists, just not as captivating as her other ones. This is where she is working as a nurse in a all-men's prison, and one of the prisoners is her ex-boyfriend, and she put him in prison. Yeah, I know the twist at the end was okay, but like I said, just not as am I okay? Just not as I did it again. Just not as captivating as her other ones. But again, I really like Frida. I read them in like a maximum of a day. It's great just to like have a fast pace and to get my count up. Then I read The Locked Door literally the next day. This, I didn't write anything. I just wrote it's a 3.4 to a 4. This was like the same thing with The Inmate, same twists and stuff, just I kind of wanted some more. Basically her dad is a known serial killer and her patients are getting murdered the same way as realized her dad killed his victims, and so someone's framing. I was half right. Trying to frame her, and she's trying to figure it out. Again, what is it with basements and shit? Can we just like not have basements? Just put your shit in the garage like normal humans, okay? And I decided to bite the bullet, and I decided to start the Boys of Tommen series by Chloe Walsh. So this is Binding and Keeping 13. So Binding is first. These are both 5-star reads for me. These are sport romances. Kind of, actually, not really. Well, kind of. This is about Johnny and Shannon, and oh my fucking god, Johnny is a rugby player and Shannon is like the new kid on the block. She goes through hell and back 3 times over. That poor girl and that whole family. What the fuck? This is kind of a cliffhanger, so you have to read the next one. Thankfully I already have it, so that's good. This is Keeping 13, so this is a continuation of Binding. The shit that she goes through, give this woman everything. Mind you, she's like 16 ish. I don't know, I think she's like maybe 17, almost 18 at the end of this book. But oh my god, she goes through the absolute ringer. If you've read this, you know. I loved this. And they're thickums, which is why I did not want to read them in the first place, because this scares me. They're like 800 pages long. I read them in a day and a bit, 2 days max, because it's so addicting. I don't know what it is. That is the end of what I've read in the past 3 months. I'm currently reading Saving 6, and then I have Redeeming 6, which is Shannon's brother's story. And then Taming 7 is coming out this month, which is Johnny's best friend's story. I am so excited. But that is everything I've read in the month of January, February and March, which is crazy to say. Oh my god, there are so many books around me right now, but I'm so happy, and I'm definitely going to be doing this every 3 months. So you'll see me do a wrap up for April, May and June next, which will be fun because sometimes I'm not going to read so many books. The past 3 months have been really good book wise, which I'm really happy about, and I'm really happy to have so many books around me that I can be like, oh, I've read this many. But if you only read like 1 book or even no books in any of these months that have just passed, do not feel bad about it because everyone's reading style is different. If you read 1 book, if you read 3 books, if you read 30 books, it doesn't matter. My ear is really itchy. I'm gonna head off and I have to put all these books away. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I like doing little wrap-ups and talking to you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up for me. If you're new here, please subscribe. Make a video every single Thursday if I'm filling up for it at 12 p.m. I am going to go edit this video and then finish reading because I need to know what happens in this story. All my social media links, all my Goodreads, all the videos I've mentioned in this video linked down below like always. Remember to spread love and stay positive, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye everyone.